Hey everybody, Steve here from The Buried Life. Today is a good day. Coming to you live from Korea, that's where I'm retired at, and we're talking about 3D resin printing. Specifically, the company HeyGears, and does it again with the Ultra Reflex RS and its outrageous price. In previous videos, we talked about the HeyGears and how it is a pretty impressive printer. And it also had a pretty impressive price along with that. I think it was about $1,400, but it has a proprietary slicing program, one click, it supports slices, sends it to the printer, and it is done. It is supposedly the greatest auto support program on the planet as we speak. And yeah, that appealed to a lot of people. When the Ultra Reflex first came out, seeing the advertisements, the specs and all that stuff, it was like, wow, that's kind of cool, but it's also kind of expensive. And they use proprietary resin. So in other words, when you go through and you're in a normal printer, resin printer, you have to set up your resin, you have to dial in your resin for that particular printer, and you have to do tests, and you print out all kinds of little test pieces, kind of stuff like this, and then you'll print out the little cities and the cubes, you do a bunch of cubes and stuff like that, and you try to dial in to get the best results in regards to dimensional accuracy and of course durability, flexibility, strength, and so on and so forth. Along with, you have to have the right exposure time to make sure that your supports print out and you're not overexposed and you're not underexposed, because in either direction, your prints can fail on those ends of the spectrum. So you need to find that happy spot in between. Well, HeyGears has been in the medical resin printing industry for quite some time. They've been dealing with medical stuff, specifically dental, and I've got resin printed teeth in my head. What are the odds? Even though I live here in Korea, there's a lot of places that have on-site building of people's teeth, dentures, implants, the whole 9 yards, bridges, veneers, all of that is done with 3D scanning, 3D printing, and boom, those things are made to order. So it's pretty amazing that HeyGears was able to go from that arena of medical and dental products and then get into the resin printing hobby, or I would say even the prosumer. I would call it a prosumer resin printer with all of the stuff that they end up doing. So no longer are you going to be using Box or Lychee or some other slicing program and things like this. They have their own slicer and it works with their resin. Now, when that first came out, a lot of people were dismayed because the initial prices of their resin was 2 and 3 times the cost of regular resin. And people are like, yeah, it's an awesome machine, but if you have to buy their resin, you're paying 3 times as much for the resin as you would with, something else. Well, the interesting thing is that HeyGears actually paid attention to that, and they've been putting out resins that are cheaper and cheaper, still dialed in, so you don't have to worry about exposure times, wait after print, wait before print, retract, lift speed, the whole 9 yards. That is all gone. You don't have to deal with that. So the HeyGears Ultra Reflex was the machine that you set it, forget it, and you print stuff. That's what you would do. You would print stuff. You don't have to end up tweaking and all that stuff. So we're going to take a look, and I'm going to show you a little bit to kind of remind some people here. And my overlay is gone. Why? Where am I? Boom. There I am. Okay, so this is the Ultra Reflex, and if we go to that, what we'll end up seeing is that it had a hefty price tag of $1,399. So basically you're looking at $1,400, and that's just the machine itself. You're not getting a wash and cure station, which in my opinion, if I was going to buy an Ultra Reflex, I would get this, and then I would get like an Elegoo wash and cure station because it's cheap and it works. So anyway, we go through here and we can see that, 33 micron precision, smart AI peeling force management, a bunch of auto heated tray. Bonus, yeah, it's incredible on all of the stuff that this thing has. UV light source 385, which is pretty nice. C5Z access module, and it constantly updates and readjusts everything to make sure you get awesome prints because they deal with medical printing stuff. And they brought that into the commercial or the prosumer hobbyist realm. Peel force sensors, automatic build plate leveling, so you've got that. And again, the results that you get with the HeyGears machine is incredible. Automatic resin refill. Again, it's got its own resin cartridges. You don't have to use them. There are some people that found out that, hey, you can use different third-party resins and it will print out just fine. So that's a bonus. Automatic resin heating, which is incredibly helpful, especially if you're in colder areas or you're using resin that requires a hot temperature. Some resins do better than others depending on the temperature. So we go through here and you just look at the details, and 0.136 millimeter minimum print detail with their PAP 10. That's incredible. Zero tolerance assembly results. These are probably the best results that I've seen online for a resin printer without having to dial it in with a ton of test prints and settings and this and that. And and did I mention it's a fast printer too? So there's a ton of stuff that came with this, and just kind of amazing, the peeling force management, scaling. But again, we're looking at a price of $1,400. So now the question is, with this printer, the new printer that they have coming out, which is the RS, and I just found this out. I knew they were coming out with it. A fellow YouTuber kind of clued me in. He says, hey, just hold off on buying a printer right now. He says, HeyGears is going to be coming out with another one here pretty soon. And lo and behold, a couple months later, we're seeing that. The outrageous price. What are we getting? And how outrageous is this? We're going to take a look at this, and this is going to be kind of amazing. So let's go back here, and what we end up seeing is, I still disappeared again, will put me off to the side. There it is, the Ultra Reflex RS 3D printer, $799. Regular $1,000. Now this offer is good until 4 October. According to the website, you can save right over here. It says save $200. Pre-sale ends on October 4th at 11:59 p.m. Pacific daytime, whatever, daylight time, whatever. The latest Ultra Reflex RS 3D printer is designed for seamless printing experiences. Now, the cool thing about this, besides the low price that they have right now, it will still be lower after this pre-sale than the original HeyGears. So it has all of this full stuff in here, and it has dynamic motion algorithm 3.0 for speed increases of up to 33%. It's going to be faster. That's insane. Automatic screen auto leveling, automatic resin refill, automatic resin heating. That's if you buy the additional heating vat, which is probably something you could do. But just for the machine itself, you're looking right now for $800. Now, yeah, you could get something like the Elegoo, the Saturn 4 Ultra, Saturn 3. You can get $400, $500, $600, something like that. But for something that you can set it and forget it, kind of like Ronco, you can put an unsupported model in there, hit one button, and it will orient, support, slice, and boom, it gets printed. No longer the days of wringing your hands and watching the vat going up and down, finding and praying to the resin gods, and please let this print, please let this print. That's all going away. Because before, what we had to end up doing, and what I'm still doing now to some degree, is that it's a learning curve to be able to support miniatures. This thing takes everything, all that out of your hands. Now, the cool thing is that not only does it have the automatic supports, the one-click slice and done, you can also go back and you can add manual supports on your own. So if you're still old school, you can still do that. So let me kind of move this out of the way, and we'll make this small so you can see what else we got going on here. Yeah, it is pretty amazing on what we end up seeing. It still has some of the same thing, the Z-axis module, it constantly monitors itself, test models the Reflex RS, other 3D printers, so we can see that the results on this new printer are going to be pretty impressive. Full screen, full field precision screen when we're talking about the light intensity is just kind of, and I think the light intensity on this is like 400. The original HeyGears Ultracraft was 385 as far as the light source. And what do we end up having here, which is pretty amazing? Let's make this bigger. Printed results assembly comparison. Keeping the light intensity differences within 5%, and reducing variations of light intensity to ensure printing precision after screen replacement. And so they're doing a little test there. It's got to be kind of a thing. Z-axis compensation. The process allows the RS printer to adjust the Z-axis compensation adaptively for each resin to support up to 180 combinations of different angles, hole sizes, and edge types. That is some cutting edge technology, but all of this comes from their dental side of the house of working in the medical field that they've been doing for a long time. They're bringing that into the hobby market, and I would say that this HeyGears is a prosumer resin printer, and it is pretty amazing. We can see the differences with, we've all had printing things like that where you get the divots and trying to get flat, and been there, done that. But this is what the Reflex RS will be able to do. So again, what this is doing is making it easier for end users to get perfect prints or near perfect prints. I have gotten the divots that are on here on the right, and it's very hard to get a resin dialed in on your machine to get stuff that's like this over here. It takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of reading. The learning curve is massive when we're talking about dialing in your printer, and people can do it. There is some skill involved. But this takes all of that out so you can spend time printing instead of having to dick around with your machine. Injection molding precision with 2-hour speed. Wow. Built for high speed, 4.5 seconds a layer average printing speed, which is an increase from their previous machine, which is pretty impressive. Dynamic motion algorithm gives that increase. That is insane. So basically there's this motion control. You have the downward phase, awaiting phase, exposure phase, upward phase, and it kind of fine tunes everything. Think of it as like as a race car. And when you hook your computer up to it and you're fine tuning everything, from the jets to the oxygen to the fuel and the NOS and everything that goes into the car, that's basically what this thing is doing for resin printing. And it is taking it to that next level. Excuse me, comprehensive dynamic motion control. This algorithm assesses printing difficulty with each layer using factors like cross sections, part spacing, and quantity, selecting from 18 optimized motion control patterns or parameters to ensure quality while enhancing speed. Again, it's like a fine-tuned race car is what they're doing here, and this is pretty amazing. Like this one here, printing results, we have 1,121 layers. Print with the RS is 95 minutes. Print on other printers, 198 minutes. So there's a 52% increase in speed. We'll look at this one over here. See if we can make this bigger so we can actually see what's going on. 561 layers. With the RS, you're going to print it in 71 minutes. On other machines, you're going to print in 107 minutes. So there's about a 33% increase. That's impressive. Now, for a lot of people, that doesn't really flip a lot of lids, because people are like, well, save an hour, save 2 hours, whatever it is, save half the time. Really, it's not that big of a deal. But with today's society of set it, forget it, kind of like that microwave mentality of we want professional and high-end prints as soon as possible, HeyGears is making this happen, and that's pretty impressive. And I can tell you, for those that are on the prosumer end of things, let's say, I don't know, you're somebody that's printing out models, you're doing a print service, you had to dial in the resins for that particular machine, for that particular resin, and somebody has a file, they bought it, they give it to you, you print it out, you might have some failures because of supports and various other things. So time is money when you're involved in doing a side gig of printing out miniatures or characters or busts or whatever it is that you're printing as a print service. So when this comes into play of you can save 30 to 50% of your time, that translates to money, because if your machine is tied up for 198 minutes instead of 95 minutes, you could get 2 jobs done in the amount of time that you could get 1 job done. See what I'm going? Yeah. So if you're somebody that's looking to do a side gig and printing miniatures and armies for people doing a print service, this would definitely be helpful, because no matter the files that somebody gives you, whether they're pre-supported or not supported at all, this machine can do everything for you with the one-click orient, support, slice, send it to the printer, boom, get it in 30% to 50% faster. This is going to be a game changer. Printing in minutes, automatic pre-processing in just a minute, automatic repair prevents failures. How many times have I taken models that I have gotten, unsupported models, put it into Cheeto Box or Lychee Slicer Pro, which I am using now, and it ends up being repaired. 70% of the time, the model's repaired. The other 30% of the time, it's not repairable, so I have to try to find something else, or just cross my fingers and pray to the resin gods that, maybe, hopefully this will print out with my auto supports and my own supporting that I put into there. Intelligent auto supports, that is the way to go. Talks about residue detection. So in other words, if you have a little piece of cured resin that has popped into your vat or left over from a failed print, maybe it was something in the bottle, a little bit of contamination, dirt, I don't know, probably not in the bottle, but something that was brought into the system, this thing will detect it and stop. So you won't waste an entire print and waste a bunch of resin. So, that's pretty impressive. The other thing, it also has screen auto leveling, which is really nice. So it will auto level and compensate. Some people would say that it's not truly auto leveling because it's not leveling per se, but it's just adjusting. It is what it is, but it seems to be the best of what we have that is on the market today. Automatic resin heating, which is a big thing, especially for people that are in the UK or colder regions of the world, the United States, so on and so forth, is that resin has to be heated to a certain temperature to get the best results. Now, for somebody like me, it's not a big deal because, we got good heating systems here. I've got it in a spare bedroom with a vent system, so it doesn't really bother me. But the nice thing is again, you can set it and forget it, and you can have it's one less variable that you have to deal with and kind of wringing your hands and hoping, was it hot enough? You don't have to go through and buy a vat band or, some little cheap little air heater like I've got in my Saturn III Ultra and, cranking that thing up, and it's all included here. Those little air heater things, those are inefficient, and a vat heater of what we end up seeing here, that is how it should be, because when you heat the air, it's going to heat the air and you'll get secondary heat onto the resin. It's going to take a long time to get that up to the temperature that you need. So with my Saturn III Ultra, what I'll end up doing is I'll heat up the resin bottle under very hot water. I'll let it soak for 5 to 10 minutes. And then I'll go through and I'll heat up my enclosed chamber. And then I'll put in the resin, and then I crank up the heater, and then I'm able to get my good temperatures. So there's a lot of moving parts and variables that I have to deal with. It would be so nice to not have to deal with that, and that's what HeyGears has done with the RS Reflex. Automatic resin refill looks pretty nice because, yeah, that's kind of a concern. The other cool thing is the vat on this thing. Let me see if I can blow this up even more. Dun, 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 dun. And as we go, and we continue on, and there it is. We've got a large, and what we end up seeing, you can't really see it clearly here because it's not a real good picture. The vat can hold like 900 milliliters of resin, and then you still have a bottle that can refill. So in other words, what is this doing for us? This is going to allow us to get some awesome large prints where I don't have to worry about every few hours I have to go and check the level of the resin to make sure that I'm not going to run out of resin. And, you know, is my resin that I pour in there, is it shook up? Is it of the right temperature? I've had problems with that because the resin I added that was too cold for my Saturn III Ultra. Large prints, kind of problematic, lots of variables. Again, HeyGears is fixing the problems, and all that is going away. They also have their whole thing here, the RS heated and pulsing release resin tank, in other words, vat. That's an additional purchase. You can get their wash and cure station, and then they have this pulsing release module, which kind of like puts in some air to help release the print from the FEP. And yeah, but I don't really see a need for that. They've got a wash station. That will cost you a lot of money. It is an option, and if you want to get everything from a one-stop shop, HeyGears apparently has it all. So the other cool thing that we see about this is the build volume. And let's see if we can get a little bit bigger and show you what we got for build volume for the RS. Build volume is 222 by 122 by 230, which is comparable to the Saturn III Ultra, except I think it's a little bit higher. What is the Saturn III Ultra? No. I'll have to look at that later. But anyway, yeah, it ends up, it's the build volume. You might lose a little tiny bit, but then you're getting a little bit higher because I think the Saturn III Ultra ends up going, this last little number here ends up being like 260 or less than that, something like that. Let's look that up. We might as well. Saturn III Ultra build area. So it's 218, 122 by 260. So when we go here, 28, let's see if we can bring this down. And I'm expecting a package. So I'm trying to do all this at the same time. So, boom. So 218 is Saturn III Ultra. So it's a little bit bigger with the RS. 122.88, so I'm assuming that's about the same. And then 260 on the Saturn III Ultra, but we're only getting 230, so we're losing 30 millimeters. Some people might say, "Oh no, we're losing 30 millimeters. That's tiny. That's like that right there. It's about the size of my thumb is what we're losing as far as the build area, which in all honesty, it doesn't seem to be a big deal to me. Yeah. Pixel size, accuracy, we see all this. Layer thickness is from 30 to 100 microns, which is pretty interesting. Some resin printers will go down to 20 microns, and usually the normal setting or the average setting is 50 microns, because when you start getting down to 20 microns, those layers are thinner, so it's going to take so much longer for those models to be printed. And in all actuality, The difference between 20 microns and 50 microns in a miniature and what you print out, and after you paint it, you're not going to notice it. So yeah, I'm not too concerned about the layer thickness. We got from 30 to 100. As we could do 30, we could do 40, we could do 50. I wouldn't do 100, but at least the option's there. The optical wavelength. It's 405 here for the RS instead of the 385 that they had on their original one. The weight we're talking about 20 kilograms, 100 watts, 180 watts, voltage, of course 110 and 220, which is nice. Connectivity is USB, Wi-Fi, and LAN, so that's nice. If you still want to be old school like me, you can plug in that USB and go to town. You can send it wirelessly over your home network, or if you're really concerned about security, you can hook up and you have your own LAN. Yeah, that's a thing there. So what do you end up getting? The printer, the power cord, removal tool, resin tank, or vat. I don't know why they call that a tank. The resin tank, to me, tells me that's the bottle of what the resin goes in. Kind of. It's a vat. I'm just going to say that. Build platform, Allen wrenches, and a scraper. So, yeah, it ends up... I think this is going to be a great deal. And we just can't get... It just goes from one extreme to the other. Let's see if we can make this a little bit bigger and we can get, no, it's just is what it is. So the difference between the Reflex RS and the original one, the LCD screen is 10.3 inches, 8K mono screen, whereas the original Reflex was 9.25 inches with a 6K mono screen. So we're getting an improvement of 8K. And if you've followed like Fohammer or things like that, the guy's notorious for explaining how none of those things really mean anything, but it's good to see that HeyGears has increased the resolution that comes from this. But when you're talking 30 microns, the average human hair can range from, 50 to 100 microns, depending on how full or fluffy your hair is, the volume of your hair. So when you're talking at printing something at 50 microns, you're not really going to notice a difference, but it's good to see that they went up in resolution for their screen. The light source, yeah, I was right on that, 405 wavelength versus the 385. This might cause some issues. I'm not sure. Now, you might be wondering what kind of issues. When we're talking about the wavelength here, it would be interesting to see as far as transparent resins, because wavelengths have a whole thing going on, and I'm not that smart, but I'm smart enough to know that, yeah, this could be an issue. But if they have transparent resin, then obviously it's not an issue. But it is what it is. So they have the NFEP film on both of them, the C5 grade accuracy on both, build volume. What we end up seeing here is that on the RS, it's 222 by 122 by 230, whereas the original Ultracraft Reflex was 192 by 121 by 220. So we got a little bit of an increase there, which is nice, and I think that's doable. It's not huge, but again, if you're going to be printing huge, there's other printers out there to do that. And if you're, again, this fits a specific market, which I think is miniatures, jewelry, all kinds of things like that. And if you're talking huge prints, there's other companies that will do that, but those companies don't offer the bells and whistles that the HeyGears does. Let's see, printing speed, average print speed with the RS is 4.5 seconds per layer versus the 12 seconds per layer on the original. Wow, that's impressive. And that's with their PA 10 water washable resin. So I'm pretty sure they use that resin because it gives them the best results, but that still, you will get an increase in the speed because it goes faster. And faster, I can tell you with resin printing, if you want your resin printer to print faster and you have to tweak all of the settings on your own, it can lead to failure, and it's a lot of trial and error to be able to dial it in to get your printer to print faster with a specific resin. And then if you change resin, you have to go through that whole process again, and that's kind of a pain in the ass. Automatic leveling, which is the same, 240 micron gap leveling. Automatic refill, we've got that. Automatic heating, which if you have the heated resin vat, which is purchased separately, I think it's like $170. Residue detection is 0.2 millimeters. So if you have something that's 0.2 millimeters and the build plate goes down, it will detect anything of that size and larger, stopping, and so you don't ruin your FEP or your print. Printing monitoring, force value monitoring, which I think you can do that online. Release film lifespan, doesn't say what it is. And what they ended up doing is cutting weight. So kind of like a professional fighter, the RS has cut weight down to 20 kilos versus the 25 of the original HeyGears Ultra Reflex. Or reflex, not reflex. If you have acid reflux, it's not a good thing. Size, we have 380 by 360 by 584, whereas the original was 400, 420, and 572. So what they ended up doing is reducing the size and the weight, which also allows them to bring down the cost. And yeah, they also have some compatible resins. So they're PAP 10, they're PAS 10, they're PA 10, PAP 10, PAR 10, whatever that is, and versus their original, which has more compatibility with their other resins. Now the good thing is that people have used third-party resins, and you can search, YouTube, and you can find out that people have used like Wargamer resin or Sunlu and a number of other resins that works with the original Reflex, and I'm assuming that we will see the same with the RS because we have the same bells and whistles. It goes a little bit faster. So I know somebody's going to pour some Sunlu or pour this or that and try that into the RS, and it's going to produce some great results. And again, it's you set it and forget it. It's like Ronco, you know. So this is pretty impressive. So taking a look here, we're looking at the UltraCraft $749, which if you looked at the video from Greedy 3D, and he actually just did a video on the UltraCraft Reflux, and you have the purchase link there, which you get an additional $50 off. So yeah, you get an additional $50 off that we can see right there, and that's why I clicked the link. But when we're looking at far as the price, yeah, $750 basically. That ain't bad for all the bells and whistles, the speed, the amenities of having one-click support, slice, and export, where you don't have to mess with anything. And then they gave you a free bottle, 1 kilo bottle of this Ultra Print Modeling PAS 10 standard modeling resin as a free gift with that. So yeah, that's kind of interesting. Let's take a look at the Saturn III Ultra. We already looked at the build area, but the Saturn III Ultra and what the price is on that right now. If we go to Amazon, we can see that this comes out to $380 is basically what we're looking at. Yeah, so around $400. So you're going to add around $350 or so odd dollars for the RS. But the thing is now you have a dedicated slicer with the technology and all the stuff, the bells and whistles that you get with the UltraCraft RS. That I think is going to be a game changer. And I think this is going to bring them, even though the price is a little bit high, but that's half the price of what the original Reflex was, which was like $1,400. So I think this is going to be a game changer, and I'm going to eat my words here. You might be wondering, how am I going to eat my words? I'm going to eat my words because in the past, I have been involved in a lot of different hobbies, and usually it's like never buy the first run of anything. Not with cars, not with guns, not with survival stuff. And of course, when you get into other hobbies and things, resin printing, FDM printing, my motto has been buy once, cry once, but never buy the first, don't order the pre-release. How many times have we seen people getting screwed? Kind of like with, I don't know, some Creality products and some other printers that are out there and so on and so forth, whether Fustra or the Giga Storm that came out, the huge printer that had a ton of problems, and they're still having problems with that. I'm thinking I'm going to eat my words on this. So yeah, I think I'm going to buy this RS at this reduced price and give this a whirl. And that's based upon order your items before they're out of stock. No pressure. I mean, yeah, there it is. No pressure. And you'll get a free gift. That's kind of crazy. So yeah, that's I'm officially going to eat my words, because I think I'm going to order this thing and forego on my allowance for a couple of months and order this. And yeah, this is going to be interesting. And even though the Saturn III Ultra is about $380, so kind of let's do the math. And this price is good for until 4 October, minus, what was it, $379 for the Saturn III Ultra. So you're saving, you're going to spend $370 more by getting this RS versus the Saturn III Ultra. I wonder how much is the Saturn IV Ultra. How much that is. I haven't. Saturn IV Ultra. Amazon Saturn IV Ultra. Let's take a look at that. And there we end up seeing it's $400. So $380 basically for the 3 Ultra. $400 for the 4 Ultra, and so we're going to spend an additional $350, $370 somewhere around there for the HeyGears, the RS. Is it going to be worth it? If you don't want to mess around with doing supports and the whole learning curve that comes with supporting unsupported models, and even having problems with supported models, where I've had pre-supported models fail on me because they weren't supported the way they were supposed to be, this RS Reflex can answer all those problems by HeyGears. So yeah, this is definitely very, very tempting, and it's buy once, cry once, and this could be something that and I'm thinking about getting in doing a side gig of printing miniatures out, having a print service. So people, they buy the STL files and then they have me print their things that they bought, the files that they bought. And with this Reflex RS, it doesn't matter if they're pre-supported or unsupported, one click, support, slice, go. And with, excuse me, with the increased speed of the RS over the previous version, which is going to be faster than Saturn III Ultra, Saturn IV Ultra, things like that, I think that's kind of worth it. You have to do that assessment to see which is going to be a good deal. But for right now, what we end up seeing is this Ultracraft RS, around 700, and of course you could get that. And I added in the heated resin tank, so that's another $169. So if you use the 10 mil 999, you can get $50 off of using the coupon code, and that came from Greedy 3D. So I'm kind of pushing him and his discount code onto this, and because save $50, you save $50. I'll take that all day long. Yeah, thank you for the coupon code. You can go through and Google. This is the one coupon code that I found that gives you $50 off, and that works for me. So for a total for all this, we're looking at $918. But if we removed the VAT, if I don't need a heated VAT, we're looking at $750. and you might have to do some shipping, taxes and shipping calculated at checkout, but that's going to be a given no matter what you're doing. Yeah, it looks impressive to me. That definitely looks impressive. So anyway, that's what we end up having here. We're taking a look at the HeyGears. They did it again by releasing another 3D resin printer. Still has all the bells and whistles. Even has some improvements over the previous HeyGears Reflex, and they brought the price down. So obviously they retooled, they looked at getting cheaper materials and so on and so forth. One of the things that I did notice is that the VAT, the build plate that goes into the machine and the handle that goes down isn't as high quality as the previous version. But if it does the job and it brings that price down from $1,400 down to what we have now, I don't care. And as long as it works, it's good to cut some corners to bring that price down to get more people into the market. So yeah, I'm really looking into this, and I gotta beg and plead the wife to advance me the money so I can get this thing. So with that being said, what do you think of this HeyGears Reflex RS printer? And even though it's like, you know, the pre-sale is $749, which is a little steep compared to like Saturn III, Saturn IV Ultra, is it something? Are there enough bells and whistles involved in this for this to be a good deal? I don't know. And then there's people that are also saying, you know what, I've got an old 8K, whatever, this, you know, resin printer, and it gives me the exact same prints. I can get everything because they've got everything dialed in perfectly. Then, yeah, then obviously you don't need to upgrade, you know. But we're talking about people that have spent hours, countless hours learning how to support minis, miniatures, models, busts, the whole 9 yards, and it takes a huge learning curve. Whereas now, a new person, a brand newbie, the noobest of noobs, could purchase this, plug it in, pour it in the resin, print, one click and done with unsupported models. And that was not attainable before with the older resin printers. So yeah, this is going to be pretty interesting. So anyway, that's going to be it. If you want, you can buy me a coffee. That's why we have the Buy Me a Coffee at The Varied Life. If you have questions, I have the official thevariedlife@gmail.com down below that you can see here. So if you have questions on resin printing, I'm just only been doing this just over a year, and I'm really enjoying it. I also have do model paintings and miniature paintings that I do on my channel. I'm doing more of that. And I'm also open for business inquiries of being able to review different products, printers, FDM, resin, laser cutters, engravers, all that kind of stuff, hobby stuff. I would love to do that. So if you're watching that and you need somebody to give an honest review, I'm your man. And if you want to buy me a coffee, you can do that as well. So anyway, if you can't do any of that, at least like and subscribe to my channel. I would really appreciate that, and it would help with the channel. So if not, I will feel depressed and dejected, and I will have to go cry somewhere. And I don't want to do that, so be sure to like and subscribe. So with that being said, we are done with this video. HeyGears Ultra Reflex RS pre-sale until 4 October. So yeah, this is the deal. And we will see you on the next video. Peace. That is pretty incredible.